From NASCAR's Cathedral of Speed to one of its historical cornerstones, 1 mile of black pavement is characterized by 2 words and 7 letters that equate to beating, banging, and all-out hard racing: The Rock. Last round at Daytona, it was Jordi Lopez coming on top of a final lap scramble in the top split opener to reign victorious and take the early championship lead. But as many in the racing industry always know, an early lead doesn't translate to sustained success all the time. On the outside looking in are past stars in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series like Casey Tucker and Derek Bordeaux, hoping that this week lends itself to brighter skies as they pursue a spot in the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series and a shot at making it back to the top level. And then there's drivers like Caden Honeycutt, who wasn't even able to race the Daytona opener, but is in the field tonight hoping to take his first step down the road to pro. It's time to sit back, relax, and fasten your seatbelts because the road towards eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series glory continues right now, live on Podium Esports. Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the second round of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from the virtual Rockingham Speedway, as iRacing's aspiring stars take their next steps down a path that could lead them all the way to the top level of oval racing on the service. I'm Jacob Seelman from Speed Sport, joined in the Podium Esports broadcast booth tonight by Taylor Burris as we prepare to call the top split of action for the second time this season. And as we get ready to go, Taylor, we go from 2.5 miles down to 1 mile, and from drafting to, well, potentially laying the bumper to somebody before things are all said and done. It's The Rock, and that means anything can and probably will happen tonight.
Of course, and good evening, everyone. Rockingham Speedway is by far one of the most challenging circuits that these drivers will have to face tonight, as drivers are going to have to be dealing with a lot of bumps, a lot of adjustments to these race cars, or race trucks, actually, as they will be having to deal with it for 180 laps. I've seen a lot of drivers struggling, actually, with this track here during practice, and I got to say, Jacob, these drivers are going to have a handful.
It's going to be a handful indeed. We've watched drivers struggle in practice, struggle in qualifying, and I think the thing that we have to keep in mind is everything we think we know, much like 2 weeks ago when we opened the road to pro at Daytona, we thought we knew what was going to happen coming in, and the long and short of it was, well, we didn't know anything because what we expected to happen was not anywhere close to how it actually shook out. But Jordi Lopez winning the opener and putting himself in an early, very strong position makes life very interesting going into tonight when you consider you've got Cody Bias, who undoubtedly is looking for redemption. And, you know, I mentioned him in my open, but Caden Honeycutt, who's in this top split field tonight, couldn't even race the Daytona opener 2 weeks ago. So he knows that's his drop week, and they're guys that are going to have to be perfect. If you had a bad week or couldn't make it in at Daytona, you've got to be on the money starting tonight.
Of course, and this is going to be critical for these drivers. No more mistakes for the rest of the season for these drivers, whether it be you missed out on Daytona or had a bad race. You have to be focused 100% to get every single point you can get here tonight at The Rock. And this track is going to be difficult. We've seen drivers struggling, of course. Once again, we're still undergoing qualifying, and even in qualifying, these drivers are struggling. I've seen trucks spinning out just about every corner and still struggling for grip. So if that's what it takes for them to struggle in qualifying, imagine what it's going to be when we go 180 laps here tonight.
Well, I'm looking down the field as far as qualifying times are concerned. Pole times at 22:57. Top 25, all the way down to Justin Trombley, are covered by less than 0.3 of a second. You want to know how tight this road to pro field is? It doesn't get much tighter than that. And that means not only is it going to be difficult just earning a good starting spot, it's going to be difficult to move your way forward because everybody's so tight.
Exactly, and that's going to be so critical for these drivers, especially where you qualify is also where you're going to be in your pit road box as well. So these drivers are trying to get the best possible pit stall position as well. So it's going to be critical to see what these drivers can do in order to try to make every single lap and time count.
We'll go ahead and roll tonight's starting grid for the top split of round 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from The Rock. On the pole with a time of 22.578 seconds is the 29 of Eddie Kerner. Alongside him is Daniel Roper. Inside of row number 2, Will Norton, flanked by Patrick Mallett, Brad Mahar, and Andrew Freenage in row number 3. Dylan Jones, Seth the Merchant in row 4. Marcus Ruckman and the Daytona winner, Jordi Lopez, completes the top 10.
Starting at 11th is Braden Boulos, followed by Blake Neer in the 12th position. Ryan Kuhn will be starting in 13th alongside Jacob Hall in 14th, with Carson Hosever in 15th. Blake Bryant will be starting in the 16th position with Ryan Duchette in 17th. Spencer Burns in the 18th position with Blake McCandless in 19th. Rounding out your top 20, Brandon McKissick.
Derek Justice rolls from 21st tonight. Derek Bordeaux, past competitor in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, 22nd. Dylan Rafferty in 23rd. Caden Honeycutt starts 24th. Justin Trombley, 25th. Casey Tucker and Cody Bias, 26th and 27th. Garrett Maines, 28th. Brian Blackford, 29th. And Donovan Strauss, 30th. A lot of former talent from the top level in those 21 to 30 range tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we have Cody Bias, Casey Tucker, Brian Blackford, all former competitors in the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series. So it's going to be difficult. A lot of challenges for these drivers that are facing here tonight.
Just waiting a couple of moments for the field to roll off. Taylor, as you mentioned, this race going to be 180 laps tonight as we quickly dive into the track facts here at Rockingham Speedway. 1.017 miles of pavement, 1.636 kilometers. Banking in the corners at 22 and 25 degrees with 8 degrees of banking on the straightaways. The track located in Rockingham, North Carolina, and opened in October of 1965, as there is the potential for green-white checkers tonight. And if we had to guess, I'd say we're probably going to see one before it's all said and done. Field starting to roll away around this 1 mile of pavement they call the Rock. Taylor Burris, what are you looking for tonight?
Looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do. Can they manage the bumps in the corners here at Rockingham Speedway? That's probably one of the most difficult things to handle here on this track and this surface. It's old, it's a lot of bumps, a lot of wear and tear on this track. Can the drivers be able to handle the pressure with this track? Also, every position counts. Every point will matter. How smart of a driving will they be tonight? Will they be trying to get their way to the front quickly or bide their time and just pace the field and race against the track? We'll have to wait and see what happens. And now we're about to turn these 33 drivers loose at the Rock.
Pace car working through turns 3 and 4, moments away, and we are glad to bring the action of round 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from Rockingham Speedway as the field works off of corner number 4. The pace car going to head for the safety of pit road. Field in the hands of Eddie Kerner and Daniel Roper. They bring him down slowly. Green flag goes in the air, and we are underway for round number 2 of the Road to Pro. Kerner on the jump. He'll take that multicolored number 29 down to turns 1 and 2. Paint it right around that yellow line. He's on his way by 4 truck lengths as the side-by-side battle's on for second.
What a battle indeed, and that battle's between Will Norton and Daniel Roper, who are battling it out for that second position as they come out of turn 3 and 4. Norton will move up into second place, but Daniel Roper, though, hot on his tail as they come across the line to complete lap number 1.
Side by side back in the pack around 6th place. Dylan Jones on the bottom of the racetrack working over Seth DeMerchant, trying to make something happen as they go wheel to wheel. Down the back straightaway, Jones on the bottom trying to make some tracks forward. DeMerchant up high in the 57, and he's going to slide back a position and open the door now on the inside as Jordy Lopez trying to follow him through. Actually, Lopez trying to go 2 for 1 as the caution flag waves on lap number 3.
Caution out on the racetrack. Let's see if we can find who caused that incident. I see a couple of trucks with damage. Derek Bordeaux is one of them with some rear truck and damage, and it looks like him and the 33 of Brandon McKissick got involved, as we see on the replay. It looks like Brandon got involved. McKissick in heavy damage indeed. Several other trucks. Casey Tucker, the 31 of Jarrett Libert. I mean, this is going to take out several big names in this race.
Yeah, Jarrett Liebert among those who started at the back. And I was talking to Caden Honeycutt earlier today, and Honeycutt was telling me that you don't want to start at the back of this field because you run the risk of being involved in early issues, exactly like what we just saw. And it looks like we've had issues too on the initial start, the first couple laps here. But Andrew Freenage, who rolled off, started outside of row number 3, sits right at the back of this field. So not sure what happened to Freenage, but he's gone from the top of the heap to very down in the dumps in a relative hurry.
I think he missed the start of the race. I think he had some issues to where he could not make it in time before the grid was filled, but it looks like a lot of the back markers now and those with damage are coming down pit road.
Brian Blackford as well, one of those who we're going to be watching certainly tonight, but this is not the start that many of these guys have wanted to see by any stretch. Blackford on pit road, as are several others, so yikes. Taylor Burris, you can come back from one bad race in this series, but a second bad race, I mean, it's very, very tough to do, and certainly not the way a lot of these guys wanted this race to start. But that's why qualifying is so critical in these races, because of how tight the field is. There's a big sense of urgency if you don't start up front to get there, and I think we may have just seen that bite a few people.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to be very critical and unfortunate for some of these drivers who cannot get back out on the racetrack to get every needed point that they need to get before this is all said and done. So we'll have to see what they're able to accomplish tonight, but I got to say, a lot of these trucks are not going to finish this race before it's all said and done.
No, I think we can all agree on that. So working caution now. 5 laps of 180 have been scored. So we'll float right around the 200-mile mark as far as race distance is concerned. Lights are out atop the pace car, so we should be going back to green the next time by. Eddie Kerner leads it. Will Norton second. Daniel Roper third. Patrick Mallett fourth. Brad Mahar in the 5th spot. Dylan Jones sits 6th. Jordy Lopez, early mover, 10th up to 7th. Seth the Merchant, 8th. Marcus Ruckman, 9th. And Braden Boulos right now rounds out the top 10. We mentioned Caden Honeycutt as a driver who would be one to watch. He right now is this race's biggest mover in the first couple of laps, advancing 5 positions from 24th. He now sits 19th as the pace car works through 3 and 4. Kerner on the inside, Norton on the outside, then it's Roper and Mallett in row number 2 as we get set to come back to green off turn number 4. Field is 2 by 2. Pace car ducks for pit road. We'll see if Kerner can nail that restart. He does. Big restart by the 29 of Kerner, and we are back underway at the Rock. He goes to the race lead, and Will Norton jumps right down into the number 2 spot. Inside lane, Taylor Burris got a great run.
He got a great run indeed as well on that restart, as they're now slotting back to the 3rd position. Will Norton does now as they go down into turn 3. A single file for the top 5, but side-by-side battles along with Jordy Lopez, several other competitors, and I believe also Seth DeMerchant doing a little bit of battle with Dylan C. Jones as they come across the line.
Yeah, Dylan Jones is back there. DeMerchant now on the inside of the Marcus Ruckman running just ahead of DeMerchant, but just as quickly as we get going again, Taylor, Carnage back behind about the top 15 or so, and the caution flag waves one.
It looks like McKissick might have got involved. Nope, McKissick actually was clear out of that one. Just looking to see who caused this caution. I'm looking through the field, and it might be something involved with Garrett Maines, looks like, in the number 4 Toyota Camry. I believe he made contact with another truck, the number 5. And it looks like the number 5 was Steven Wilson as well. Yeah. Those two made contact.
Contact between Maines and Steven Wilson. We'll get a good look at it on the Podium Esports replay here, but that is... That's two weeks in a row Garrett Maines has found some bad luck. Actually, I think he was involved in a late incident at Daytona, and now here 8 laps in, involved in another incident at the Rock. So not what Garrett Maines wanted to start his road to pro, but it looks like at the very least, Taylor, Maines will be able to, Maines and Wilson both, I guess, will be able to continue on, albeit having a little bit further ways to go.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Legacy Esports driver and also now new developmental driver for Richmond Raceway Esports as well. So he's got a lot of work to do, and we'll get through the night's race as we still have a lot of laps left, 170 to go.
So we remain under caution working at lap number 10. We'll go ahead and give you a look through the top 10 once again. Eddie Kerner, Daniel Roper, Will Norton, the front three as it sits. Brad Mahar up to the 4th spot. Jordy Lopez had a great restart, jumped from 7th up to the 5th spot. He's now 10th to 5th. Marcus Ruckman 6th, Seth the Merchant 7th, Patrick Mallett 8th, Dylan Jones 9th, Braden Boulos completing the top 10 as we remind you in conjunction with our broadcast tonight that if your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium Esports, we have space available for you. Podium Esports has a plan for every budget and can custom tailor solutions to suit your business or brand's best needs. For more information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com. All right, Taylor Burris. So I was told at the start of this that we were going to see one of two things. It was either going to go green pretty much all the way, or we were going to have an early yellow and all chaos was going to break loose. And so far through 10 laps, chaos option seems to be the one that's winning out.
So far it is, but let's see what happens as we get later on into the run and once we get a decent opportunity for runs here later in this race. I think we might be able to see one green flag pit stop before this is all said and done, but time will tell. These drivers have to get settled in. This track is difficult. We see that here tonight as we had 2 cautions so far before 10 laps have been completed. So it's only going to be a matter of time before we see even more changes as the race goes on.
And it's interesting, too. I mean, we've seen largely the top 10 have pretty much stayed in those positions. So track position has been pretty crucial, at least through the opening laps. 9 of the top 10 starters run in the front 9 positions right now. So it's been hard to move your way forward. One driver that's not had any trouble doing that, however, is Caden Honeycutt in the Friends for Jacqueline Foundation entry, who has done a stellar job so far at making his presence felt early on. +8 from where he started in the number 10 Toyota Tundra, runs 16th after starting 24th as we get set for a restart with 12 laps in the books and a long way to go.
Long way to go indeed, but we're about to turn them loose here once again as the field's lined up 2 by 2. Lights are out on the pace car as they come down the back straightaway here, what we call Thunder Alley, as they're coming down into turn 3 and 4. Turn them loose. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a longer green flag run. I think these guys are trying to sort themselves out, but time will tell once we turn them loose.
So field stack 2 by 2, Kerner and Daniel Roper now the front row, 29 and 16 as we get set to run. Pace car going to make the dive off the banking and back to the safety of pit road once again. Still more than 160 to go. Eddie Kerner, the dominant driver early, and for the 3rd time tonight gets a big jump on the inside lane as Roper tries to come down and almost cuts the nose off of Will Norton's truck as they head down into 1 and 2. That was a squeeze that was brave for work in lap number 13 as they're almost 3 wide behind him for 4th.
What a battle indeed, 3 wide indeed, as we see Seth DeMerchant go to the outside. Ruckman drops back in that number 19 Horizon Chevy Silverado, and Seth DeMerchant is on the chair. He's going to go to the inside of the 7 of Brad Mahar and get the 4th position.
Big run for DeMerchant down low, and he just powers past Brad Mahar like Mahar was tied to a post. Falls back in line, side by side behind. Dylan Jones now the man on the move as he takes 7th.
It looks like Marcus Ruckman's having a tough time on that outside lane as he is getting passed by multiple trucks. Ryan Kuhn just went by Jacob Hall as well, and now he has to battle with Caden Honeycutt, who's all over his back bumper as they go into turn 1.
I told you Honeycutt was going to be a driver to watch. Started 24th, almost inside the top 10 as it sits. He got a monster restart in that number 10, and he makes the pass of Marcus Ruckman to move into 10th. He may have 9th here as he goes to work on Jacob Hall at the
side by side, he'll go with Ryan Kuhn in the 8 truck right now as they go into turn 1. He will move up into the 8th position, getting by Ryan Kuhn, and sets his sights on the 22 of Jacob Hall now.
Yeah, Ryan Kuhn, in that 8 truck, and Honeycutt slots his way into 9th. Yellow lights come back on as we come to the completion of lap 16. So that was our longest green flag run to date. However, 3 laps and we're back under.
Yeah, Garrett Maines in that number 4 truck just lost control of the car coming off of turn 2. Got a little bit of damage to the rear end of that truck, but I think he can get it fixed up pretty quickly if he's able to get to pit road quick enough. But caution is out once again with Garrett Maines in that number 4 Toyota Tundra out spinning.
So Maine's in trouble for the second time in back-to-back cautions, and I continue to be impressed by that number 10. Honeycutt is on an absolute charge right now, repping the Lone Star State of Texas, 16 years old, and has absolutely shown that there's race-winning speed, I think, in that truck as everybody dives off the banking, and they thought about pit road. Honeycutt and Jones, a couple of them that fake them out, stay on the racetrack with 16, coming to 17 laps scored.
Yeah, some of these drivers, I think, up towards the front are not going to be coming down pit road anytime soon because just due to the fact of so many cautions we've been running right now. So these tires are not really up to temperature, up to tire wear severity right now. Now, some of these drivers who are towards the back half of the field might try different strategies to see if they can leapfrog if and do we get a chance of green flag or a caution where these leaders will come down pit road.
Working 18 laps complete early on here in the second round of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Top Split from Rockingham Speedway. And we'll remind you that Podium Esports is the home of the Cars Esport Tour. The Cars Esport Tour is the official esports competition of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour and the only short track series in iRacing to be sanctioned by a real-life sanctioning body. The Cars Esport Tour features fixed setup late model stock racing and open setup super late model racing at some of the best and most historic short tracks in the Southeast. Registration is open today, and for more information, visit podiumesports.com/cars-esport-tour. Sitting now 18 laps on the board, Eddie Kerner, Daniel Roper, Will Norton, Jordy Lopez, Seth DeMerchant, the front five, as I think we're getting a taste of this one could take just a little while. Taylor Burris, not the start we wanted to see in this top split of Road to Pro Round 2, but hopefully we can establish a bit of a rhythm. I know there's a few guys, Caden Honeycutt was among them, that were hoping to see some long runs. I know Honeycutt was one that seemed optimistic about long run speed, and a couple other guys that have looked like if they could ever get into a rhythm are going to be pretty solid. Hocevar comes to mind. Cody Bias has made a nice charge early, and I think even Seth DeMerchant, if we go on a long run, that 57 is going to have something to say too.
I agree. Seth DeMerchant has definitely been on a tear right now. Already worked his way inside the top 5. And also Jordy Lopez, our Daytona winner. He's also been running up good. Got started in 10th, now up to the 4th position. It has been keeping pace with the top 3. But so I'm pretty sure he's going to be looking for those long runs if we can get one of those here. As green flag, as pace car, his lights are out on the pace car. Double file once again, and we're going to turn them loose.
We are going to turn them loose. Kerner and Roper, just like they lined up the last time, going to be the front row as we get set to come back to the green flag. And I think the question we got to be asking ourselves now is who can mount a charge, or you know, is Kerner in a class by himself? We will find out sooner rather than later, I know. I think the first time I've seen Caden Honeycutt on the bottom for a restart too, and we know how fast that 10 Toyota Tundra has been once he's got a couple laps under his belt. So we'll wait and see. He certainly has been the most impressive, but Derek Justice is up 9 spots right now. Cody Bias up 12. Donovan Strauss up 14. So Honeycutt certainly not the only big mover, but the one that has caught the eyes of those watching the top 10 right now. Will be 20 laps complete when they come back to the line. Eddie Kerner has led the way since the drop of the green flag. He'll lead the field back to the green flag, and we will continue on. Here at Rockingham, near contact for second. Will Norton tried to shove the nose down in there, and Daniel Roper said not going to happen. He slides down in the 16 to take the runner-up spot, and Roper may have a run at Kerner for the race lead.
He's going to take a look to the inside as they go down into turn 3 and 4. Nose to tail, Roper and Kerner as they come off of turn 4. Those bumps, the cars are just shaking out all over the place as they come off of turn 4 down the front straightaway. Will Norton in that number 23 looks on as they head back into 1.
Back into turns 1 and 2. Eddie Kerner hanging on to it. Washes a little bit high off turn number 2, but a solid pace right now as we work 22 of 180 laps. Top 3 have started to break away, and one thing I was surprised about outside of those first 2 or 3 rows, the inside lane bobbled up from about 7th on back and couldn't, you know, it was hard to go anywhere.
Yeah, some of these drivers are a little bit struggling on the bottom of the racetrack, trying to see if they can find a different lane in order to try to get back past their competition. But so far, the top 4 have separated themselves from the rest of the top 10 as they come off of turn 4, probably separated by about 4 to 5 truck lanes between Jordy Nelson and Seth DeMerchant as they come across the line.
That's going to put the top 4 a little bit closer. They're separated by about 7 truck lengths from 1st to 4th, and behind them, everybody is a little bit tighter compacted. There's just about 6/10 or 7/10 of a second between Jordy Lopez and Seth DeMerchant, who holds down the 5th spot. And DeMerchant has been one trying to make a charge, but Jordy Lopez, the fastest truck on the racetrack, last time by, he cut 2/10 out of his deficit to leader Eddie Kerner. And right now, Lopez looks to be a man in that 44 truck that could make something happen. He is all over the back of Will Norton for 3rd.
He's taking a look as they come off of turn 4, looks to the inside, slots back into place right now as they head back into turn 1. Jordy Lopez, Daytona winner, now gets right up on the back bumper as they come off of turn 2, but cannot make a move to the pass yet as they go down Thunder Alley.
Welcome to the top 10 for the first time tonight, Carson Hocevar, who is on the move in the 40 truck, and a solid run for him. Started well outside the top 10 in 15th, and he now runs 9th, just ahead of Honeycutt, who's now worked his way, actually fell all the way outside the top 10 on the restart, now back up to the top 10 in 10th. How about Donovan Strauss, though? Taylor Burris 30th to 12th in the early going, by far and away the biggest mover of this race. An outstanding job for that 51, who was in a solid position 2 weeks ago at Daytona as well before some of the late race calamity.
Unfortunate for what happened to Donovan at Daytona 2 weeks ago, but on a good job right here, working his way up through the field after, like you said, starting 30th inside the top 15, and has his eyes set on Dylan C. Jones as he is now working his way through the track and through the traffic right now. One thing I do want to notice and bring out, Eddie Kerner, he is pulled away by about 2 truck lanes from the rest of the field of Daniel Roper and Will Norton as they come off of turn 2, so I think Kerner now might also have some of that long run speed.
It's easily the biggest gap we've seen Kerner build so far in this race. 28 laps in, coming to 29. He's led them all. Back in the pack, side by side, off turn number 4. The battle for 11th is on. Dylan Jones has it. Donovan Strauss to the inside.
As he will take the pass right now as they come down out of turn 2. Is going to be nose to tail, but now Donovan Strauss will inside to the 11th position. A little further back, it's still going to be single file, while the next side-by-side battle is going to be back for the 22nd position between Steven Wilson and Ryan Duchette as they come off of turn 4.
Just ahead of them is Dylan Rafferty, who has been mired in the back of the pack. There's at least one driver that I thought was going to be a little bit more of a factor. Did not qualify well and has struggled. Jarrett Liebert, though, sits 19th, a couple trucks ahead of Rafferty. And Liebert, after his involvement in that opening caution, has done a nice job, Taylor, to work his way back forward inside the top 20.
He has. He's worked his way, climbed his way after that terrible qualifying exit, but that seems to be a good strategy for him as he is able to work his way through the field, no problem, and is still trying to stay inside the top 20. So the great job for that number 31 sitting in 19th, but it looks like now Brute Greenars is now having to work his way up.
32 laps in, and this is the closest thing we've seen to a green flag run so far, working about 10-12 laps all of a sudden, which is exactly what some of these guys who were back in the pack wanted to see. A little bit of tire wear, have a chance to hang on. And Donovan Strauss, we talked about him a minute ago, really on the run, has tires, I believe, and now up inside the top 10, 30th to 10th now in just 33 working 34 laps. So we talked about him being on the move. He is really on the move in that JDR Graphics Tundra.
He sure is, and still closing into the back bumper of Brad Mahar in that number 7 as they come down the front straightaway into turn 1. Gets right up on the back bumper of Mahar and just hitting the bumps perfectly, not having any difficulty with controlling that truck as they go down the back straightaway. He takes a peek to the inside, does not decide to make the pass just yet, just follows suit with him to turn 3 and 4.
Oh, right on the bumper goes Strauss. He's trying to wiggle Mahar up or maybe force him into a mistake. Mahar goes wide, and I think may concede the spot here. That was a lot of pressure from Strauss for 35 laps into a 180-lap race, and Donovan Strauss will advance one more position up to the 9th spot and bring Dylan Jones with him. Up front, however, the battle for the lead is heating up. Daniel Roper has closed the gap down on Eddie Kerner. He sits second, a truck length back. The battle for the lead off turn 2.
Roper now all over that back bumper of Eddie Kerner now as they go down the back straightaway into turn 3 and 4. He will take a peek to the inside, but Kerner will close the door on him as they come out of turn 4. But still, these two drivers are working the best they can. As the way you look back on in 3rd place, Will Norton is sitting there.
Norton is sitting there, I feel like, almost sizing these two up or maybe waiting for them to burn their stuff up. Who knows? 37 laps complete, and it's about to be a 3-truck battle for the lead. If Norton has anything to say about it, he's closed down to a truck length within a truck length now of Daniel Roper, and Jordy Lopez is back there. Make it 4 trucks under a blanket as they work off turn number 4, but it's Roper looking to the inside on Kerner for the race lead and lap traffic ahead.
Lap traffic indeed. That's Brandon McKissick in the number 33. They're going to go underneath him to get by him as quickly as possible, but now he still has to get through the rest of the field as the leaders come by him. He tries to stay out of the way, but the battle for the race lead still rages on. Roper now goes to the inside. He might have a run down the front straightaway.
Big pressure to the inside comes Roper. Battle for the race lead is wheel to wheel, and Daniel Roper takes it with a big sweep to the inside on lap number 40. So Eddie Kerner leading the first 39. Leader no more. Daniel Roper to the front at the...
What a power move by Daniel Roper in that number 16 as they now come out of turn 4. Will Norton looks on in 3rd place. He might be able to close the gap on 2nd place. Eddie Kerner now as they come down the front straightaway into turn 1. Still separated by the truck lane. Now gets right off from the back bumper of Eddie Kerner as they come out of turn 2.
Working down the back straightaway, and Roper trying to pull away, do what Kerner did a few laps ago. I'm not sure he's going to be able to escape that easily. Roper only a truck length ahead of the 29, then it's back to the 25 of Norton, and Lopez lurking there in 4th. You get the sense, don't you, Taylor, that he's just kind of sitting back there biding his time in 4th, waiting for maybe these front 3 to overcook their tires just a little bit.
Could be a possibility. Also, don't forget the 22 Jacob Hall sitting there in 5th position as well. Only a truck length from Jordy Lopez. He could be another one of those drivers who could be biding his time, taking care of those tires, especially if this run goes any longer than planned. So they are now heading into turn 1 and 2. Top 5 single file nose to tail as they come out of turn 2, but Roper has pulled out by about 2 truck lengths.
We were talking about Donovan Strauss making some moves. He got to 9th, Taylor, and he seems to have stalled there. About 2 seconds back of the race lead. The 51 not able to make any. He's kind of bottlenecked up, it looks like, behind the 57 of Seth.
It seems like it could be those tires could be giving up a little bit on him now. He's got to be careful and manage those tires. I mean, you gain 20 positions just about on those good tires. They're going to end up losing their tire wear pretty quickly now as he keeps pushing those tires to make passes and positions throughout this run. So he's got to take it easy if he wants to stay inside the top 10.
44 laps all of a sudden go on the board, and yes, Dylan Jones back around the 51 of Strauss, so that drops Strauss back a position, and you have to wonder, maybe Taylor, did he get the tires a little too hot? Did he work them a little too hard, trying to pick his way all the way up through here and maybe negate some of that advantage he would have had by...
I think it's safe to say that he might have done that indeed for his truck, so he's going to have to take it easy, give those tires a little bit of a break, and then go again once he feels comfortable that this truck can then carry him a little bit longer, but still right now sitting inside the top 10, but just right there on the line to being in the top 10.
And a further back, the opening rounds runner-up, Cody Bias, sits 16th right now in the Cessna Beechcraft number 14, with Bias not doing too bad of a job early on for starting 27th, and he is quietly worked his way forward a bit, but finds himself a good bit of a ways behind 15th place Patrick Mallett. Cody, obviously, Taylor is no stranger to success and has had some success in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, but this has been a bit of an unfamiliar position for him the last couple years, having to and now having to just run back through the road to pro to have a shot at the Pro Series again.
It just shows how difficult and this challenge is, how working your way up through the ranks can be. As we now have a battle for second coming up right now, as we see Kerner and Norton and Lopez and Hall all battling it out.
Oh, this may be where Eddie Kerner gets clotheslined right here, as they say, hung out to dry on the outside, because he has got trucks lined up to the inside, trying to go by wheel to wheel into turns 3 and 4 with the 44 of Jordy Lopez. Lopez forces that 29 of Kerner wide. They're door to door for the third spot still, as Will Norton escapes. But while all this has been going on and Caden Honeycutt forces his way underneath Kerner for 5th place, look at what Daniel Roper's done. He's driven out to a 1.5 second advantage.
And it's going to continue to grow if these drivers keep on battling, not giving any wave or position for these drivers to work together, try to catch back up. Another driver who's on the move once again is Seth DeMerchant. He is all over the back bumper of Carson Hocevar as they go back into turn 1.
So we work 50 laps complete. There's still 130 to go, which is a lot of time, but this finally starts to feel like a race where everybody's been able to settle out. And you mentioned that you thought we would see at least one green flag pit stop. If this keeps on, Taylor, we'll see that green flag pit stop. You're the one with the calculator here. When are you thinking we are going to see pit stops if this continues?
Probably anywhere between the next 20 to 30 laps. I mean, it also depends on the tire wear, of how much pressure these tires are going under and how much wear these tires are and how much these drivers are pushing. If they're pushing a little bit too much, we may see them come even earlier than that in order to get fresh rubber to try and leapfrog the competition once the actual pit stop cycles start going around. So give it another 20 to 30 laps.
Is it going to be a game of who pits first? Is this one of those cases where you want to try and be the one to pit first and open the floodgates, or is there more strategy to it than that?
It's a mix of both. It's a catch-22 in a sense for these drivers. You could be that first truck on pit road and get the fresh tire, and you could feel like you're unstoppable and gain those positions and gain that time. The only problem is if you are that first one, others may stay out a little longer than you, and then once they get the fresh rubber, they will be on the top of the leaderboard as far as timing and scoring as they work their way through the field, and you will be on order rubber. So I would suggest trying to be one of those middle trucks in there between, where you're in the middle, gaining position, but also not losing any time.
54 laps now in the books. Daniel Roper leads Will Norton by 1.25 seconds. Daytona winner Jordy Lopez, third. Jacob Hall, 4th. Caden Honeycutt now up inside the top 5. Then it's Dylan Jones, Eddie Kerner, the pole sitter who led the first 39 laps. Andrew Freenage, Seth DeMerchant, and Donovan Strauss, the rest of the top 10, with Carson Hocevar sitting 11th. And I really thought, Taylor, before the last restart, I thought Hocevar was going to have something to muscle his way up through there a little bit more. I just don't know that that truck has what he needs.
Seems to be struggling a little bit right now in the early goings of this run, but let's see what happens toward the end of the run. Some of these trucks are actually set a little differently. Some of them might be better on the opening runs, those first 10 to 15 laps. Some of those set it up to where it's better on the longer runs, that last 20 to 30 lap run. That's where you got to find that sweet spot, and that's what is so difficult when it is building these trucks. You got to find that sweet spot in order to make these runs work for you and try to be at the top or near your competitors once those runs start getting into play.
Battle is about to be on for third between Jordy Lopez and Jacob Hall. The 44 of Lopez has it, but he has got a trunk full of Jacob Hall in the 22. They're going to war off turn number 2. Hall lost a little bit of forward drive. He's trying to rally.
He's going to take a look to the inside as they come off a turn 4, nose to tail. Jacob Hall in the blue 22 Chevrolet. And then we see Jordy Lopez, the Daytona winner, in the red and white Toyota Tundra. As they go inside by side, Jacob Hall will try to pull the slide job as we now see almost Dylan Jones try to get to the inside of Jordy Lopez, but Lopez shuts the door.
And could we see tires starting to play a factor here? I didn't see 100% if Dylan Jones pitted, but the way he's all of a sudden turned the jets on, I have to wonder if there are fresher tires underneath that 25. Jones looks like a rocket ship right now as he goes for 4th place.
He could have saved his tires early in the run to where he has the better tires towards that end. That could be a big strategy call for some of these teams. Not really pushing the truck like we saw Donovan working his way through the field. We now see Dylan Jones and a couple of other drivers who are outside the top 10 or towards the back half of the top 10 working their way inside the top 5.
And look at Freenage, too. Weren't we talking about him running into trouble early on? He's clawed his way all the way back to 6th in the order right now. Make that 5th in the order that time by with 60 of 180 laps complete. So we're crossing 1/3 distance here as suddenly Jordi Lopez looked like a hero 2 laps ago. He's fallen back.
And he continues to possibly fall back as he falls into the clutches of Caden Honeycutt as they come off of turn 4. He is all over the back bumper of that truck as they come across the line.
Roper continues to lead by 1.5 seconds. That gap has stayed pretty stable, and I have to believe maybe that Roper's almost controlling that gap a little bit at will. That truck looks very, very strong out.
Sure does, and it's going to be a matter of time to see what Roper can do towards the end of this run as they are now working their way, and a couple of trucks towards the back are coming down pit road, I noticed.
Yeah, a couple trucks at the back. I have to believe maybe, I don't know where the strategy would be going there. They're probably just trying to leapfrog some positions and see if they can't pick up some positions relative to where they're running, Taylor, but certainly not going to be a strategy that's going to get you on pace up towards the leaders for sure.
Well, I noticed one who was up towards the front that did recently pit by the looks of it, Brad Mahar, and that number 7. He was up towards the top 10. Now he, I guess, came down pit road a little early, and now he's working his way up through the field, trying to get it back on the lead lap.
Mahar working. We saw him towards the front a little while ago, but right now this really turning into a race that has a long green flag feel to it after 3 early cautions in the first 20 laps of this race. 65 laps going to go up on the board when they get back to the line. Daniel Roper leads Will Norton, Jacob Hall, Andrew Freenage, Dylan Jones, and Freenage with the run on Hall as he looks for the 3rd position and really looking strong right now in that 11. Freenage tracking but lost a little ground off turn number 4.
He did. Now it's separated by less than a truck length as they dive it back into turn 1, hitting the bumps. You see how the truck is actually bouncing in the middle of turn 1 and 2, trying to see if they can maintain control of their trucks. Down the back straightaway they will go. Freenage now tries to take a peek, cannot get close enough to get to the inside of Jacob Hall. Will have to wait another lap.
Roper, meanwhile, continuing to extend the gap as Eddie Kerner, the pole sitter, boy, he looked so strong early, has fallen all the way back to the 8th position now, Taylor. Not what he wanted to see, and I feel like we're getting this this situation start to develop where if you get shuffled out of that lead and back into traffic, it is so hard to make up ground.
It is, and it's just so much, a lot to do with the aero, the tire wear. A lot of different things can cause this truck to be not handling well for you. It could be a very ill-handling truck right now for Eddie Kerner. It might have done well up towards the front with the clean air and good tires, but right now he is struggling as he's about to be passed by the 13 of Blake McCandless as he is going down the back straightaway.
Yeah, McCandless, another driver who was buried early but has started to make a charge. And I feel like we're seeing the game of comers and goers as the run gets longer and longer. And that's something you love to see, especially at a track like this, isn't it, Taylor, where you have guys that may be good at a run, or good at the beginning of a run, I should say, guys that are good at the end of a run. And it's just a matter of finding that balance and trying to make sure your truck is as good as it can be all the way through.
Exactly, and that's where you got to find that balance, find that special sweet spot for these trucks in order to make these runs work for you. You can't be fast the first 10 laps, and you cannot be struggling those last 10 laps of a run. You have to find it.
Back to 15th place. Battle is on between Cody Bias, who held it and I felt like was pretty safe for a little while. He's under attack from Jarrett Liebert now. Liebert tried to make the move, could not make it happen all the while. Cody Bias was taking a look on Carson Hocevar, who's really started to fall back, was 11th, has now dropped to 14th, and may lose that spot. It's 3 trucks under a blanket.
It sure is. As they dive it into turn 1, it is 3 cars under the blanket once again. Hocevar holding strong, though, over Cody Bias and Jared Liebert as they go down the back straightaway. Now Bias looks to the inside, but is not close enough to stick his truck nose underneath to the inside. Almost gets his nose clipped by Hocevar through 3.
5 trucks right here, and I think Hocevar Taylor is actually holding this bunch up. I think Bias certainly is faster than he is. I think Liebert's faster. Rafferty's closed up on this group, as has Patrick Mallet. So I think the 40 of Hocevar right now is the guy that's really bottlenecking this entire group, and they really want to get by him and get moving.
They sure do, but it's going to be a tough call to get. They have to plan it right and not cause an accident as they come out of the turn 4. And now it looks like Bias might be able to stick his nose to the inside of Hocevar as they go into 1.
Yeah, he's got the lane inside. Cody Bias down low, Hocevar up high, and Hocevar is going to get hung out to dry. Bias goes high, and Jarrett Liebert's got the run now, but he's going to be trapped down there because Hocevar was still in the outside lane. Now you're going to see the consequence of being stuck in that outside groove as Dylan Rafferty's going to try to go by. Patrick Mallet's back there. Braden Boulos is back there. They're trying to drop kick Hocevar potentially all the way outside the top 20 before he can stop the bleeding.
Got to cut another battle going on for that 8th position right now as we're working our way up through the field. Caden Honeycutt is under heavy fire from Eddie Kerner and Donovan Strauss, who now his tires seem to be back up to par once again as he comes passing by Eddie Kerner.
And I think we're starting to see pit stops here. Jacob Hall and Jordy Lopez, 2 that were inside the top 5, have now ducked to pit road. So this is going to be where you start to see the strategy of the leaders play out, Taylor. And we ask ourselves, if you're as dominant as Daniel Roper is, when do you pit?
We know he's not one of the first drivers to pit down pit road. We'll have to see what happens for him. Will he be one of those middle trucks that'll pit, or will he be one of the last trucks?
So we sit now almost at the halfway point of this race, about 15 laps from halfway, and Donovan Strauss moving underneath and taking 6th place from Caden Honeycutt. This would have been the battle for 8th about a lap ago, up until, or rather, now 5th place as we see I believe it's Blake McCandless head for pit lane, so these positions going to shuffle mightily over the next few laps, and we were talking about it. It's a game of when do you want your tires, and do you want a little bit fresher tires before these guys pits, or do you want fresher tires late in the run? How about that? The 51 of Strauss to pit road from 5th place.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. That's going to be one of the drivers to watch. Will he be able to keep up with the field, or will he struggle towards the end of the run when some of these drivers have come down pit road later in the run? So time will tell, as now Daniel Roper in the 16 has come down pit road.
So Roper gives up the advantage on lap 78. That's going to put Andrew Freenage to the top of the pylon with 78 laps complete. Your leader is in Taylor Burris, and I imagine at this point, if you're making green flag pit stops, it's 4 tires and gas all the way.
Of course, it would be foolish to do any other strategy here at this point in time. 4 tires and fuel pretty much for our race leaders as they come out of pit road momentarily, as we see if anybody else would decide to come down pit road, as Drew Freenage is coming down pit road.
Freenage to pit road, and that, I believe, is going to, yes, it will, on lap 79, hand the advantage to Caden Honeycutt, who will lead in the 10. He's going to be under fire from Seth DeMerchant. These are a few of the remaining drivers who have yet to pit, and we've got to believe they're going to be coming any time now. But Honeycutt stays out one more lap as side by side, we're about to see what fresher tires can do here. That's tight.
That was tight indeed. That was one of the lap trucks of Casey Tucker in the 28, able to now get by the race leaders to get him 1 lap for cover. Of course, he is multiple laps down, so he's going to be struggling anywhere to get back on the lead lap here. A little further back in the 3rd and 4th position, we see Garrett Maines and Steve Wilson holding on to that position as they're working the lead as the battle for lead between Honeycutt and DeMerchant continues.
Side by side off turn number 4 to the lead on lap number 81 is Seth DeMerchant in the 57. DeMerchant to the top, and I think Honeycutt's tires are about cooked. You're going to see the difference between new tires and old right here. Look at the run by Brad Mahar up the outside.
It just shows how important these fresh tires are. Here comes James Millblocker as well. He will be gaining by getting one of his laps back, and it's just only a matter of time. When will Seth DeMerchant, Honeycutt, Maines, Wilson, Justice come down pit road?
You got to wonder, at this point, for those who have not pitted, they're committed to running it all the way till they're about out of fuel. And you ask yourself maybe a one-stop strategy versus a two-stop strategy, Taylor? Is that something that we could see develop here? Honeycutt to pit road on lap 80.
It would be you would have to do a lot of saving or get a lot of caution help here with that in order to do a one-stop. I have a feeling that they will have to do at least one more stop no matter what lap you pit. I mean, I see some of these drivers trying their best to do it, but it's going to be a tall order.
You just gotta wonder, because it's very odd, I think, to see them stay out this long. I figured once your former leader Daniel Roper came down pit road that would be the ticket, and we would see the floodgates open. But as it is, Caden Honeycutt completes his service, and now Garrett Maines will drive to the point as Seth DeMerchant is on pit road.
Garrett Maines is in a hornet nets of lap traffic as he held up it's a bunch of trucks stuck behind him. Dylan C. Jones along with the 12 of Blake Bryant, the 31 of Jarrett Livrier. I mean, it is a tough driver issues.
So Maines now and Wilson, who were involved in that skirmish early, holding up the field now 3 wide as fresh tires drive past the...
It's going to be difficult indeed. Garrett has got to pit now in order, because he is losing way too much time.
I've got to wonder. I mean, we're coming up on halfway. I'm just really puzzled why you would give up this amount of time. I mean, at the rate they're going, he's going to be a lap down by the time he makes his pits.
He's got to come down now. I mean, he is losing. Here comes several drivers that are inside the top 20 as well. He nearly clipped the wall coming off of turn 2.
And look who's going to be the leader when all of this cycles out. The driver who started this pit cycle on lap 75. We talked about when would tires be at their best. Well, Jacob Hall has leapfrogged everybody, Taylor Burris, and he's going to cycle out over Brad Mahar, Will Norton, Jordy Lopez, and Daniel Roper to lead this party when Maines and Wilson finally pit.
I think Wilson's already one of the first ones to actually pit early on as well, if I look at my timing and
there's no way. Not to have a 10-second advantage. Yeah, they've got 70 laps on their tires here, so they're going to be eating a lot.
Yeah, pretty soon as well, and Jacob Hall did a great job with his pit stop strategy in order to get ahead of Brad Mahar.
Well, like I said, it was pitting early. Jacob Hall was the first driver to hit pit road there about 14 laps ago now, and that's what leapfrogged him above everybody.
So it's going. We look and see at Brad Mahar, who's on a different strategy compared to Jacob Hall and Will Norton. Pitted a little bit later on as well compared to Jacob Hall. It's going to be interesting to see what he can accomplish here, as he currently is sitting on about 29 lap tires. So he was one of the first ones to pit out of this group.
Ooh, Maines is slowing up. I think he was maybe trying to get to pit road. He'll stay out another lap, though, and we will be at halfway this time by, as Jacob Hall is coming like a freight train. He's going to be there in about 2 more laps.
Yeah, he is losing a ton of time right now. Garrett Maines has got to come down pit road along with Steve Wilson. Otherwise, they're going to lose everything. They're going to lose laps if they are not careful.
So under green flag conditions, by far the longest run we've seen so far in this race. 2 drivers have yet to pit in Steven Wilson and Garrett Maines, and once they do, then the entire thing will cycle out. Your effective leader right now with all the differing strategies is Jacob Hall. Will Norton, they sit 3rd and 4th respectively, but in all reality are going to be 1st and 2nd when they either come up and pass Steven Wilson and Garrett Maines, or when they finally pit. And we're seeing the 22 of Jacob Hall come into frame right on the bumper of Garrett Maines now, and I don't think Maines is going to put up any resistance. He can't. Those about 75 lap old tires, no match for the double deuce. Hall to 2nd, and Hall quickly tracking down Steven Wilson.
Very quickly indeed, now down to 7/10 of a second between him and Jacob Hall now, as he is just barreling on him. I mean, looking at the lap time, it is 9/10 of a second faster than the 5 truck of Steve Wilson, so Hall should be there at any time.
And for the lead, no contest. Jacob Hall cycles through to the #1 spot with 94 of 180 laps complete. And with that, we will go ahead and take you to tonight's iRacing midway race break as we cross the halfway point of tonight's race, brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual racetracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series with racing from the Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and much more. 95 laps complete now as we watch a battle for the lead between Jacob Hall and Will Norton. They occupy the front two spots. Steven Wilson has dropped back to third, and I believe Garrett Maines is finally, no, he's not given up the ghost to pit just yet. So Steven Wilson third, Daniel Roper now taking that spot away as Wilson finally does, I think, decide to pit. Jordi Lopez is fourth. Andrew Freenage is fifth, Eddie Kerner sixth, Dylan Jones seventh, Garrett Maines eighth, Brad Mahar ninth, and Blake McCandless completes the top 10 as we see Will Norton take the top spot away from Jacob Hall.
That was a power move over Will Norton, as now we go back to the 11th position. Garrett Maines is sitting there in that double-zero car truck right now with Jared Libier in 12th, Dylan Rafferty in 13th with Cody Bias now sitting in the 14th position. Spencer Burns is sitting in 15th with Braden Boulos in 16th. Marcus Ruckman in the 19th is sitting in 17th with Patrick Mallett in 18th. 19th goes to Derek Bordeaux, and then rounding out your top 20, Caden Honeycutt.
Seth DeMerchant rides in what will be the 21st position when all cycles out. Behind him is Blake Bryant, Ryan Kuhn, Justin Trombley, James Milbachler, Derek Justice, Stephen Wilson, Donovan Strauss, Blake Neer, Brandon McKissick, Casey Tucker, and Brian Blackford through the rest of the field. And that's a look at your iRacing midway race break with over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, visit iRacing.com today. Coming up on 100 laps complete, Will Norton now out in front over Jacob Hall, Daniel Roper, Andrew Freenage, and Jordi Lopez. Taylor Burris, takeaways from the first 100 laps of this race.
Well, we started off with several different cautions for the first 20 laps or so, but once we got that all straightened out, we were ready to go, and now we've been green flag ever since. Everybody has now completed their first green flag pit stop. I'm pretty sure some of these trucks will be coming down to complete another pit stop before this is all said and done, but I see some of them trying to do several different avenues of strategy, so it's going to be a matter of time to see what these trucks can do.
So we continue to cycle through the longest green flag ever since that third caution, Taylor. It's been green the rest of the way, and I think that's kind of what we were hoping for. It's like everybody got the jitters out of their system, and it's been clean and green ever.
It sure has, and what great racing we have had here. As the 3 truck right now is having a little bit of a battle with Braden Boulos, Dylan Rafferty, as they're now working their way through the field.
I'm looking through this, and pit stops can help you and pit stops can hurt you, and I'm thinking that among those who did not have good pit stops, Seth DeMerchant looks like dropped anchor during this pit sequence, and we see the consequence of how long Caden Honeycutt stayed out as well, all the way back in 17th place now. So I think pitting early, Taylor, seems to have been the right call.
It seems to be, as we looking through the field. Steven Wilson, who was one of the race leaders, was one of the last ones to pit. He's a lap down right now, and Garrett Maines, 2 laps down. So just shows staying out the longest may not always be the best strategy, but we'll keep an eye on seeing what those two will do as they have the freshest tires.
Battle is on for the number 10 spot. Cody Bias and Jarrett Liebert going at it. They are 10 seconds behind race leader Will Norton, but that is a battle that is currently one of the best on the racetrack right now, and Bias trying to make something happen.
They also got Spencer Burns right there in the middle of those two as they work their way down into 3 and 4s. 3 trucks under a blanket as they come off of turn 4. Spencer Burns takes a look to the outside as they come off of turn 4 over Jared Liebert. Gets a great run and will move inside the top 10.
Well, the shuffling back here is as good as anything we've seen in a little while, and Spencer Burns making his first appearance inside the top 10 now. And how about a call to Blake McCandless, too, doing a nice job up in the 8th position as it sits, and a name that we didn't really talk about in Daytona, but he's under attack from Ryan Doucette right now. Doucette trying to go for that number 8 spot, and we'll take it with not a whole lot of contest, but still a solid top 10 run for McCandless.
Yeah, a very good run in that Chevy Silverado as they're now working their way through turn 3 and 4 from the Sim Performance Group camp as they are coming off of turn 4. Ryan Doucette, though, doing a great job as well. We saw him pretty much be one of the main front runners at Daytona before getting involved with some late race action and caution. So he's kind of in a redemption mode, trying to get a good finish here tonight at the Rock.
Yeah, and I think redemption is on the minds of several right now. Andrew Freenage trying to close in and maybe fend off Jacob Hall, who had been right up there, but the 22 has fallen back rather quickly all of a sudden and was second, now 4th, and Freenage trying to see if he can't close in on Roper. Look at Roper come back all of a sudden as well. He dominated that first part of the green flag stint and maybe closing tracks on race leader Will Norton.
He has indeed. Looking at his lap time, ran a 23.9 compared to Will Norton's 24.2. So Daniel Roper is definitely on a tear with that HPM Motorsports Chevy Silverado.
Freenage also doing a nice job in the number 3 spot. Dylan Jones back up to 5th. So some of the names we talked about early maybe have not talked about in a while. Really making tracks and cycling their way through here when it matters. But Daniel Roper has absolutely driven down Will Norton, and we are going to have a battle for the lead on our hands maybe next lap. It's 3 truck lengths in turn 3. Roper painting that yellow line, trying to close in on the back of the 25.
As they come across the line right now, Roper 23.9 compared to Norton's 24.0. So times are definitely working in the favor of Roper as they come off of turn 2 down the back straightaway, separated by now a truck length between the two Chevrolets as they go down into turn 3.
And I think Roper's just stalking him right now. I think he knows he's got the better truck, and it's just a matter of when can he make the move. Will Norton sits as the leader, but that may not last long. Roper closes right to the rear deck lid of the Nexus 25. Inside, battle for the lead as they work down the back straightaway. Daniel Roper trying to take it away, and I don't think Norton's going to be able to do much about it.
He's stuck on that outside, easily loses that position to Daniel Roper. New race leader once again, Daniel Roper back to the top of the leaderboard, coming across the line, completing lap 113.
So Roper now out in front as we close in on what will be 65 laps to go in about another lap here. Solidly has Daniel Roper picked his way back to the number 1 position, and this almost has a feeling of maybe game, set, match, but we do know they're going to need a little bit more fuel, I believe, to get to the finish.
I think there's going to be a couple of drivers that are going to be trying to one-stop this race. I know a couple of trucks are going to be out there trying to do that, but for the most part, for those who pitted early, yes, they are going to need one more stop of fuel. And of course, it all depends on how well those tires are wearing as well. We're probably going to be seeing 4 tires and fuel for most of the field.
So now 65 laps to go. Freenage a second back in 3rd as things have really started to settle out now, finally, amid a very long green flag run. Look at the top 10. Daniel Roper leads Will Norton, Andrew Freenage, Jacob Hall, Dylan Jones, Jordy Lopez, Ryan Doucette, Blake McCandless, Eddie Kerner, Spencer Burns. That's your top 10 as we close in on the finish of round 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from the Rock. More action continues here on Podium Esports. In just a minute, we're going to step away. We'll be back to the action right after this.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
door-to-door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race.
Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe.
For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out?
Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron. Drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Welcome back to coverage of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from Rockingham Speedway, the top split of round number 2. And this is where the road to $300,000 truly starts, because it's these drivers trying to crack their way into the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series and then potentially into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series 2021. Jacob Seelman alongside Taylor Burris as we continue to take you through tonight's action from the Rock inside of 60 laps to go. 58, make it 57 and a half laps remaining. Daniel Roper, who's dominated this race, in command right now over Will Norton, Andrew Freenage, Jacob Hall, Dylan Jones. But what this is turning into, I believe, Taylor Burris, is a game of who's going to have the freshest tires at the finish if this race stays green.
Yeah, the tire wars have begun indeed here on iRacing with the race here for the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro with that here at Rockingham. We're looking to see a couple of drivers have already made their final pit stop. Brad Mahar and Donovan Strauss. They're both now 2 laps as Brad Mahar was actually able to get back on 1 lap of that. So it's going to be a matter of time to see what he can do. Also, a couple of drivers who last pitted on one of the last trucks to pit was Garrett Mays and Steve Wilson. They are now back 1 lap down through the field, so they're having to work their way. They're going to probably need a little help, possibly, but I think some of these trucks are going to try to one-stop it before this is all said and done.
And boy, isn't that going to make it interesting for all of us. A handful of trucks right now on pit road, but the leader staying out as it sits. Roper, Norton, Freenage, the front 3. As Taylor, I think this is a case where we may not truly know who's going to be the winner of this race until all the strategies shake out in the final couple of laps. This just has that feel to it of there's several more twists and turns that are yet to go.
Well, there's always that case also, you think we have everything sorted out, and then next thing, a caution comes out and throws everything out the window for these drivers. So this is just temporary strategy for some of them, as we're seeing Eddie Kerner still on pit road, Brian Blackford, who's had a difficult race, as now Jordy Lopez has now said he's coming down pit road. So a lot of the heavy drivers that have been working up their way through the field early on are now struggling and coming down pit road.
Meanwhile, Daniel Roper not coming anywhere near pit road, at least for the moment, as there's some tight racing behind him. However, Will Norton was trying to pick his way through a pack of traffic. Blake Bryant's back there. Eddie Kerner's back there. Andrew Freenage is back there, about 9 truck lengths back of Norton. So it's Norton versus Freenage for position, but Norton trying to fend off a host of trucks that are on fresher tires and working a 2-stop strategy, as opposed to some of these drivers. And I don't know that we really still know who's on what strategy, because all the strategy across this race is so up in the air. As Freenage down pit road, as your leader Roper is as well, with 129 laps going on the board.
Yeah, so it's going to be even more interesting to see what these trucks can do right now. Still waiting to see some of the other trucks. Will they come down pit road? Will Norton still out there? Will he come down this time by as he's now trying to get around one of the lap trucks of Jordy Lopez, who recently came down pit road? He's coming by pit entrance, and the answer is yes, he will come down along with Jacob Hall, and a couple of other trucks I believe will be coming down this time by. Ryan Duchette, and let's see who else. Nobody else right now at this point in time.
Well, it's going to be enough because Norton, at least, I think, led most of the guys who have not pitted yet down. He leads at lap number 130. It looks like maybe Ryan Doucette, the first car who has stayed out for the moment in the 30. Again, we're waiting to see exactly how all this shakes out. Patrick Mallet, another one that has stayed on the racetrack for now. I must admit, this has kind of been a bizarre race, Taylor, when you look at it, because we thought we knew what the strategy was going to be, and just as quickly everything changed.
Indeed, it has. I mean, I'm looking through the field right now. Drivers such as Steve Wilson, who was one of the last trucks to pit, he's now up to 5th position. Garrett Maines up to 10th position after being 2 laps down, after being the very last truck to pit. So everything is flown out the window, as now Steve Wilson is now your new race leader.
Yeah, Steven Wilson in the 5 to the lead on lap number 131. He and Derek Justice, I think, are about the only 2 trucks that have yet to pit. And of course, Wilson was one of those who was involved in a very early skirmish with Maines back around the 20-lap mark. And he's had to do a lot of fighting to get his way back forward.
Sometimes you got to call an audible when certain incidents happen, and I think Steve Wilson is one of those drivers who decided to pull that audible in order to try to keep a good shot of getting good points tonight, as he is currently your race leader. But it's only a matter of time, as a lot of the lead lap or trucks that have come down pit road and got fresher tires are easily coming by him.
Oh, no question about that. They're going to eat him up here. The fresher tire trucks against the 5 of Wilson, and I'm waiting to see who would ultimately be the race leader. Daniel Roper come into frame as we see the 8 now starting to work by. That's Ryan Kuhn trying to make the pass on much fresher tires of the 5 of Wilson. The 28 of Casey Tucker is there. They go side by side as we work lap 135. So 45 laps to go, and back in the back of the frame, about 2 seconds back, most of a straightaway from Steven Wilson, is Daniel Roper, who leads effectively, we'll say, the effective leader, because he's already made his pit stop, and we know that Steven Wilson is going to have to pit again. Right now, Roper 1.2 seconds faster as he chases down that 5 truck for the race lead.
Oh, he's going to get him right here as they go down into turn 3, side by side. They will go. Daniel Roper back up to the front of the field right now in that HPM Chevy Silverado as he comes out of turn number 4 and will easily take the race lead over the 5 of Steven Wilson. Now it's only a matter of time to see what the rest of the field will do, as Justin Tremblay will not try to get by him.
Ooh, that's going to be tight. Back right behind the 5 of Steven Wilson. Justin Tremblay trying to make tracks, and there is the 25 of Will Norton, the 11 of Freenage going by. So while all that is going on, Taylor Burris, Daniel Roper has opened up a 1.3 second advantage.
Yeah, with that issue that they had to get by of Steven Wilson, that just cost them a ton of time. So Maines and Wilson are definitely out there struggling right now on those older tires, while the rest of the field is on that fresh, clean rubber for them to see what they're able to accomplish. It's going to be a tall order for them, but they're going to have to probably come down pit road. One stop strategy is a very difficult call to do here.
It is, and I mean, consider we've still got 42, 41 laps to go, and you're trying to go a one-stop strategy. There's no way that's going to save you at this point. Oh, caution!
Well, that changes everything.
Well. Boy, just when we thought we knew what was going on, there come the yellow lights to...
And I think that works, and it was actually Garrett Maines who caused that caution right there. Looks like he got spun out by the 19, possibly, of Marcus Ruckman. Yep, a little bit of a tap right there in the middle of turn 3 and 4. Actually, Ruckman was just like pushing him through the corner. So A very interesting situation has arisen here at Rockingham.
I believe that's what they call business picking up a little.
I would agree with you 100% on that.
Leaders are on pit road. Taylor Burris, take us through the strategy. Daniel Roper, Freenage, Norton, they're all headed down towards the far end.
Yep, everybody's going to be probably coming down 4 tires and fuel for the most part, as we're waiting to see when our leaders hit their pit box. As we see Daniel Roper still waiting to get to his pit box, along with Drew Freenage, along with also the 23 of Will Norton, Jacob Hall, who will win the race off of pit road. Waiting to see as they wait to be released. Still, no one has been released from pit road as far as out of the front runners. As Ryan Duchette gets off pit road, Drew Freenage is off pit road, and it looks like Ryan Duchette will win that race, followed by Roper, then Will Norton, then Drew Freenage, Jacob Hall, your top 5.
Taylor, I'm going to have you check on this, but I have to think maybe 2 tires on that 30 of Duchette, because I don't see any way you come in 10th or 11th and come out that far ahead of the 16 of Roper unless you're on 2.
Yeah, his pit stop was a 9.3 stop. Yeah, that's a 2-tire stop indeed.
So 2 tires for the 30 of Duchette, 4 tires for, well, pretty much everybody else among the front runners, and that, my friends, is going to shuffle the strategy. Inside of 40 laps to go, Duchette to the lead, it looks like a couple of potential wave around trucks before the restart. And before we go back to green, we'll remind you that upcoming Taylor Burris, you and I got to call the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series last week. This week, they head Friday night to Spa, which is going to be a very interesting event that will be broadcast here on Podium Esports.
Yes, indeed, and also the iRacing Esports Network. I mean, Porsche's at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. What a way to enjoy sports car racing at its finest. So looking forward to calling the action and bringing that to you starting at around 7 p.m. at Eastern Daylight Time, and we will enjoy some great sports car racing action on Friday night.
Friday night going to be fun. Wednesday night going to be fun with the ERL Premier Series around 7:40, and then the doubleheader for the Cars Esport Tour around 9 p.m. Eastern, both of those on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. So a lot to be found. Of course, Saturday, this has been pretty widely talked about this week on the iRacing Esports Network. The stars of the NTT IndyCar Series going into action with the IndyCar iRacing Challenge. And then Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox FS1 and the Fox Sports Go app, it's round number 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series as it heads to Texas Motor Speedway, where Denny Hamlin will try to defend his win from the opener at Homestead, Miami, and iRacing heads to Broadcast Network Television. I cannot wait for that one. Right here, though, we've got 37 laps to decide it in the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro. Ryan Duchette, Daniel Roper, the front row, Will Norton, Andrew Freenage, Jacob Hall, Seth DeMerchant, Stephen Wilson, Eddie Kerner, Dylan Jones, Jarrett Liebert, the top 10. Pace car heads for pit road. Field in the hands of Duchette on 2 tires. He gets a great restart. Green flag back in the air. 37 laps to settle it. Contact, big contact as your once leader Daniel Roper gets into it with Will Norton. He goes around on the entrance to turn number 1, and the caution flag waves. I think Dylan Jones may have been collected in that at the base of turn 1 as well.
Dylan Jones, Cody Bias, Braden Boulos. I mean, a lot of the heavy hitters inside the top 5 were involved with that, but I think the biggest one and the biggest shocker has to be between Daniel Roper and that 16.
Let's go back and take everybody through it, Taylor Burris, because this was an instance where the restart was not very strong for that 16 of Roper. He got into it with the 25 of Will Norton. There was contact that started to send the 16 around, and everybody scattered. I think the 22 got a piece of it. The 11 of Freenage went high to avoid it, and yeah, Dylan Jones with nowhere to go just plows into the left front of the 16.
I tell you, one driver who got nearly by was Ryan Kuhn in the 8. Almost got hit by several different trucks through there. So amazing drive for the number 8 of Ryan Kuhn.
Back under caution just as quickly, and Daniel Roper was the dominant truck. So now Taylor Burris, boy, doesn't this open things.
I tell you what, a couple of trucks who are pretty much happy about that is drivers such as Donovan Strauss and Garrett Maines, who took the wave around under that last caution, get back on the lead lap. And with that caution, that helps them out big time, where they can come down pit road, get some fresh tires, and go back at it once again.
Well, this gives us a chance to catch our breaths. Doucette leads, Freenage, DeMerchant, Will Norton, and Steven Wilson. Boy, we thought Steven Wilson was dead in the water, didn't we, not too long ago? And now here he sits up inside the top.
Well, he did get involved with that incident on that caution. He's got a little bit of damage to that truck, especially towards the rear of that truck. So we'll have to see what he decides to do, but he's going to stay out on pit road by the looks of it. Or stay out on the track.
Well, I suppose now that, boy, this quickly opens things up, and I think Andrew Freenage probably was the luckiest one in all of that. He was able to duck high and completely get away, and that's going to put him on the front row for this restart. Seth DeMerchant's another guy we haven't talked too much about tonight, and he sits third. Nice job for the 57, who's kind of clawed his way back. We thought maybe he was a little bit off strategy earlier, but done a nice job to hold down P3 so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. And Seth DeMerchant is someone to be watching. You cannot count him out.
So field starting to grid up. It is going to be just a little bit longer before we go back to green. Doucette, Freenage, DeMerchant, Norton, Wilson, Liebert, Mahar, Kerner, Burns, and Jacob Hall, the remainder of the top 10. And I know it's really early to be looking down the points, but if you are somebody like a say a Seth DeMerchant or a Jarrett Liebert, who they were decently solid in points at the end of Daytona, and now you're putting together a decently strong run here, this is what you need to be able to start your road towards the Pro Series after 14 races.
Well, let's take a quick look at the points right now. I have those up actually before this race was started. Currently at the top of the leaderboard is Jordy Lopez Jr., followed by Cody Bias. Second, Drew Freenage is in third, with Adam Gilliland in fourth, and Brian Blackford rounding out your top 5. A little further back down the road for the rest of the top 10 is Austin J. Yarborough, Seth DeMerchant, Garrett Conrath, Zach Nichols, and Donovan Strauss, your top 10. So some of these drivers are definitely putting on a show. We see some of them here tonight running in that top split.
Gearing up for a restart. Lights are out on the virtual iRacing pace car. Ryan Doucette, Drew Freenage now the front row. Doucette's still on 2 tires. Going to have to see what he can do on this restart. 32 laps to go when we come back around to the green flag. Pace car gets ready to head for pit road. It is gone, and we are back underway. Doucette on the restart. Grant gets the job going. 32 to go, and DeMerchant going to be the first on attack. He dives to the inside of the racetrack. Freenage sliding back.
Freenage slots back in right in front of Steven Wilson as they come off of turn 2. Look at the sideways Steven Wilson is as he's struggling for grip off of turn number 3 or 2 now, as he's all over the inside of Will Norton as they come off of turn 4, side by side as they almost make contact with the wall down the front straightaway as a caution is out.
Caution flag waves once again, and that 120 lap green flag run that we were raving about just a little while ago seems to have just as quickly gone by the wayside with 31 laps to go. Taylor Burns. Yeah, Spencer Burns was where that all started, and unfortunate because I thought we were pretty sporty, and now it appears it's going to be a dash to the finish.
It sure is by the looks of things, as Spencer Burns got a little bit of loose coming out of turn 3 and 4, made some contact with the 29 of Eddie Kerner, and now as we looked at the field, then there was more contact with Jacob Hall spinning Spencer Burns around, but no other contact, so great drive from everybody else.
And because we can, and because, quite frankly, we're breeding cautions and it gives us an opportunity to do it, post replacements 100, our fearless leader has returned to catch up the tail end of this. James Pike, you missed about, I don't know, 6 cautions and 110 or so lap green flag run in the middle that had me really optimistic until they collided at the front and took the dominant driver of this race right on out of it. For Daniel Roper, boy, I'm gutted for him, and I'm really intrigued now to see what Ryan Doucette can do on 2 tires coming down to the finish. We've had a couple of heat cycles now, and I like to think maybe that's going to start to even some things out between Doucette and everybody else that's got 4 tires up there with him.
I think the interesting thing for Doucette is that when you consider that he was so strong in the early part of the season opener of the eNASCAR Racing Road Pro at Daytona a few weeks ago, this is almost a shot at redemption. Maybe a chance to potentially get that win that sort of eluded him. So something that you definitely have to keep your eye on here if you're Doucette. If you want to maybe make amends for a few weeks ago, this might be your best shot.
It may be. Lights remain on the pace car. We'll quickly run you down the top 10. Doucette, DeMerchant, Freenage, Norton, and Steven Wilson. The front 5, Jarrett Liebert sits 6th, Brad Mahar 7th, Jacob Hall in 8th. Jordy Lopez, the Daytona winner, has run his way back up to 9th. Blake McCandless, we mentioned him earlier. Nice run going once again for him, back up inside the top 10, as this has been really a shuffle of drivers all night long. And boy, the big thing here, Taylor Burris, 27 trucks, it looks like, by my estimation, remain on the lead laps. So any trouble in these final 30 laps, you're going to be giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. A lot of different strategies these drivers are going to have to face if we keep having more cautions before we turn them loose here once again. As the pace car lights are still on, I believe they will go off this time around here as we are closing in to the final 30, less under 20 laps actually left to go here in this race. So a lot can happen.
I think it'll be about 27 laps to go, it looks like, as the lights do go off this time. So a 27-lap sprint to the finish. And I think the time for green flag runs, Pike, is over, because what we've learned, especially here at the Rock, is cautions can breed cautions, especially when the urgency goes up.
And especially when the intensity ratchets up and there's not a lot of room to escape if you end up in some sort of problem here. That, I think, is the biggest thing. Corner entry in 1, and then the wall coming out of 4. They all funnel so quickly and make everything so tight here. You see one car go around, especially when everybody's stacked out double file on a restart, you're going around very, very quickly if you don't pay attention.
Field into turn number 3, side by side. We'll see if Doucette can roll the momentum once again, as the pace car going to wait to dive off the banking at the exit of turn number 4. And a couple of players at the back end of the top 10 we haven't talked a lot about tonight that we may get a shot to here in a minute. Doucette nails the restart. Green flag back in the air. DeMerchant drops down. Freenage side by side with Will Norton for 3rd. They dive into turns 1 and 2. Oh, spin in the back. It looked like maybe either Jacob Hall or Jordy Lopez started to go around Taylor Burris, and that's right in the middle of everything.
It was right in the middle of everything, and not any, as several drivers close to getting involved with that. It looks like the number 3 of Dylan Rafferty involved as well. Braden Boulos. I mean, a lot of heavy hitters towards the back half of the field involved with this incident. I thought it was Jordy Lopez on first look. As it turns out, I believe it was actually Blake McCandless that was the truck that went around to start that. Indeed, it was that 66 on the back quarter panel, and that's a tough break for him. He was right up there knocking on the top 10 once again, and boy, it's really lucky, I think, James, that there weren't more trucks that got collected in that.
Have to believe you're probably right about that. I thought with the way that he went around that he may end up in big trouble. A lot of drivers on the outside lane might have been swept up by that number 13, but thankfully it was largely a one-truck incident, and now everyone gets the chance to regroup. The problem is that we're running out of laps. We're going to be down to about 20 to go when we actually get the restart here, and you're not going to have that much time to make it up towards the front, Jacob Seelman, which means you're going to be more aggressive, which means you're going to be more likely to run into people, which means we're probably seeing cautions all the rest of the way, unless there's something that you all know that I don't.
I'm not going to say I know something that you don't, because that seems to be about what we've come to expect here in the last little bit. It was green until it wasn't, and then it got chaotic very, very quickly. But I remain to be impressed the job that Ryan Doucette did and has continued to do on those 2 tires. Track position appears to be everything right now.
It has indeed for him, man. I mean, that 2-tire stop is working brilliant. If this keeps happening where we get a caution after caution, this could be the best strategy for Ryan. But for drivers such as Seth DeMerchant, Will Norton, Drew Freenage, they're hoping that we get a little bit of a longer run, about 10 laps or so, of just consistent green flag runs. At least they might have a shot to get around Ryan Doucette.
Well, I guess now we'll just have to sit back and watch it play out. Cody Bias, James Pike, finished 2nd at Daytona, 2nd in points coming in, 27th to 12th. Gotta believe that 14 team is really happy with the job he's put together so far.
Have to believe, but at the same time, if you're trying to get up further through this field, it's all about trying to make sure that you get up to where Doucette is. And right now, to be fair, the number 30 machine, whether or not the 2-tire strategy works if we get a green flag run, I don't know. But so far, he's looking like a genius, because track position very clearly looks like what you need.
Yeah, track position has been key. I really think the one driver who proved he could race his way through no matter what position among the front runners he was in was, unfortunately, the driver that got crashed out about 10 laps ago, Daniel Roper, who was running solidly and now sits in, well, out of this race in the 29th position. 28 trucks remain. They are all, from what I can tell, still running, and we're going to have about a 22-lap dash from here if we can go green, but I'm not convinced that's going to happen.
Could not agree with you more on that. It's still a lot to happen. I mean, it's amazing to see how many people are involved out of this race early on. I mean, Brian Blackford out of this race around 82 laps ago. I mean, unfortunate run for him getting involved in that early caution. And then, of course, Daniel Roper, who is absolutely dominating this race. He is out of this race pretty much 11 laps down. I mean, it's just amazing to see several drivers who had a shot at this now all of that gone within an instant. But the field is now coming down the back straightaway to get going here once again at Rockingham Speedway. It is still going to be Ryan Doucette on the inside of that number 30 Chevy Silverado and Seth DeMerchant in the number 1 on the outside. Who will come out on top? Will we have another caution at the start of this race, or will we get a little bit of a longer green flag run to see what these drivers can do?
My word to all of that is yes. That's my answer. 22 laps to go. As Bobby Allison once said, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Doucette, DeMerchant, Norton, Freenage, Wilson, Liebert, green flag back in the air. That's the best restart DeMerchant's had in the last few, but it's not going to be enough. The next is 25. Will Norton down to the inside. DeMerchant trying to rally topside, side by side as the leader gets away.
DeMerchant gets a great run on the outside as they come off of turn number 2 down into turn 3. They'll go in single file pretty much throughout the top 10 as the next big battle is going to be between Cody Bias and Derek Justice. Justice stuck on the outside as they come off of turn 4.
21 laps to go, and we at least get a lap in the books here. How about Steven Wilson, though? The strategy that we thought there was no way it was going to work. He stayed out as long as he possibly could, managed to catch a caution, and now James Pike, he rides
riding in that 4th spot as they bounce and bump around Rockingham Speedway. Big block, though, a little bit further behind. There goes Andrew Freenage to the inside of the 31 of Jarrett Liebert. Those two race side by side, but it's not a question as Freenage to the 11 jumps ahead and jumps into P5 as Liebert smacks the wall out of turn 2.
Liebert gets a piece of the fence, keeps on trucking.
There's contact right there as we have a caution out. Liebert along with Jacob Hall made contact, and more cars making contact as we have a big pileup in turn 3.
Trucks piling into one another in turn number 3, some of them among the top 10. Caution flag waves, and then there were 19 laps to run.
Yeah, It looked like the number 20, the 7 of Brad Mahar made contact with Jarrett Liebert and causing Liebert almost to save it, but could not as he loops it around several other trucks, such as the 29 of Eddie Kerner, Donovan Strauss, Marcus Ruckman involved in that incident. So rack him up and try again.
This is where things get interesting. Split strategy. Oh, the leader faked everybody out. We thought he was going down pit road, and instead, I think this is going to be a case of, do you think tires at this point will matter with how much we've been seeing cautions, James?
As cautions continue to breed cautions, and I was curious to see if we might have a little bit more strategy, but a few takers down pit road. Braden Boulos, Eddie Kerner, Blake Bryant, Dylan Jones, Donovan Strauss, and Jared Liebert. So a few of the drivers involved in that incident coming down pit road to try and get their trucks picked up, but everybody else, track position, track position, track position, track position. Wait, Jacob Silva, did I mention track position just to be safe?
Yeah, we've only been talking about it for about 162 laps, so.
I think you covered it pretty well there, James, on that.
I feel it.
18 laps to go, though. We are in the final 10% of this race now. Doucette, DeMerchant, Norton, Wilson, Freenach, Hall, Mahar, Lopez, Bias, and Dylan Rafferty, who I thought was maybe done for a shot to have a solid finish after that spin by Blake McCandless, literally right in front of him, Taylor Burris, and he holds down, Rafferty does, the last spot in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, he is holding strong, surprising even after that incident, so it's only a matter of time to see what he can accomplish in these final 15 laps or so.
And I think that's going to be about what we have when we go back green, is 15 laps to go, and James Pike, that's enough time for 2 or 3 more cautions.
That's enough time for 2 or 3 more cautions, and then we have to consider the green-white checkers that also might be in play in the race. So who knows? Who knows? We might be kicking it here for a little bit. That's just my hunch. Just a little hunch I have.
Perhaps. While we're under caution and have a minute to talk about it, James, why don't we go ahead and mention and congratulate, just like Josh Williams did a week or so ago, a little over a week ago now, Josh Berry, so another Josh, going wire to wire in the replacement series, which was from Kansas Speedway that just wrapped up a little while ago. Impressive drive by the Cars Tour driver to get the job done.
Really impressive stuff. It helps when you qualify on pole, but he was just so consistent and smooth on that top line at Kansas. And though he had challengers in the final green flag run, nobody had fresher tires than Barry, it seemed like. He managed his 4 Goodyear Eagles better than anybody else. So we are 2 for 2 with Josh's winning in the replacements iRacing series, which will be back at it just like Road to Pro. Not next Tuesday night, but the Tuesday after, and we're going street stock racing on iRacing Switch channel, so that should be a lot of fun.
At Myrtle Beach. At Myrtle Beach.
Beware.
Did I mention I'm jealous, by the way? At Myrtle Beach.
I mean, I could have guessed. I could have figured.
I think we guessed it quite well on that.
All right, field doubled up. It's going to be a 15-lap, hopefully, dash to the finish. Doucette to Merchant. We're going to try this game one more time as they work off turn number 4. Pace car going to make the hard left, back off the banking and onto pit road. Can Doucette make it happen one more time? Green flag waiting, late restart, now it's in the air. How about the jump to the outside for Steven Wilson? They stack up, 3 wide, they almost stack up into turn number 1. Everybody holds on to it, and Doucette leads off 2.
As they come off of turn 2, it is still 2x2 from 4th on back, and it's still difficult. A lot of drivers stacking up against each other as several cars trying to just jockey for position to get things sorted out, but still right now, Doucette, the Merchant have checked out on the rest of the field as they come across the start-finish line.
Maybe a 2-man fight for the win as we work down inside of 14 laps to go. Doucette leads by a truck length. Then it's DeMerchant. Steven Wilson, a brilliant job on that restart to go to 3rd. And back in the back end of the top 10, Cody Bias in the 14 rides in.
Cody Bias
Bias in the 14, Ryan's in the 8 spot. Ducento still with the lead. DeMerchant slower by a tenth that last time by. So Doucette might be in decent shape. Steven Wilson also slower. Who said anything about 2 tires being a disadvantage? Right now, Ryan Doucette's making that call look really, really good.
Ryan Doucette trying to drive away. Who would have thought a 2-tire call would work here? But he's 12 laps away from proving all of us wrong. Doucette leads it. DeMerchant second. Steven Wilson still third. And Brad Mahar's back in the top 5.
What a run for these drivers. I mean, Brad Mahar, we saw him as low as 2 laps down outside the top 25, and now is running for a top 5 run here, chasing down Will Norton as they come out as the caution is out.
Caution flag waves coming to 11 laps to go. Lap 169. And this is where things get really, really interesting, as that was a scramble back in the pack. James Pike outside of about 16th place.
It was Spencer E. Burns, as Chad has taken to him with the course these past few weeks, who was swept up in this one to start. Contact at the backstretch with Caden Honeycutt in that number 27 truck. Those two bounced together coming through Thunder Alley, and Burns eventually looped it around and up into the fence. Heavy damage to the right front of his Toyota Tundra, and he parks it right there on the bottom and eventually gets it back going. But a rough night, I think, for the number 21.
Yeah, Spencer's had a rough night all the way around. Pretty unfortunate there, and that really going to spell the end of any shot he had of a somewhat decent finish. And for Caden Honeycutt, too, who Taylor Burris had raced his way all the way up inside about the top 4 at one point from 24th place, and now unfortunately he's not going to get the finish I think he really hoped to have.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult and tough night for that driver of the number 27. I mean, he was doing such a great job, Caden was. I mean, started in 24th and worked his way up to 4th. I mean, a great run indeed. But unfortunately, with that incident with him between Spencer and Honeycutt, it's going to be a tall order for him to do anything else here tonight.
And the big thing I still want to circle on, James Pike, and I know a cause that you're quite familiar with as well, but really cool to see Caden on that number 10 Toyota Tundra carry the Friends of Jacqueline Foundation tonight, an initiative that, from what I understand, he's going to highlight throughout the entirety of Road to Pro this season.
So Jacqueline also believes that might be Minnie Tyrell, who's got a little bit of an association with that group as well. Minnie, of course, one of the drivers in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, one of the Lucas Oil Touring 12 in 2020 at that. So no surprise to see a little bit of love for some of the best charities that are around short track racing here on tonight's broadcast. But Jake, I tell you what, it should be a very, very entertaining finish here as we get back to green flag racing with about, call it maybe
7. It'll be 7 to go.
7. As I say, if anybody wants to fire up the Sealman Math hashtag, Ryan tried to start it in our internal chat. I would say let's go ahead and get it going in the external chat as well. Certainly worthwhile.
Yes.
So far as
7. Yeah, 7 laps to go. I'm fairly certain the lights will go off this time, and that would bring us back to green starting lap 174. So, boy, 7-lap sprint. Taylor Burris, who do you like?
To be quite honest, I'm not picking anybody. I mean, Seth DeMerchant is on a tear right now. He could easily get by Doucette if given the opportunity. But really, with how many cautions we've kept having here these last 20 laps or so, anything is possible.
James Pike, I was watching Steven Wilson on that last restart. You don't think he's got something left, maybe?
I think it all depends on what kind of gap Ryan Doucette is able to pull out to when they get back to green flag racing. I think he could be pretty tough to get to, especially if you get the Merchant in there as well. But if you maintain that bottom and continue and can get alongside the one, I think Wilson, maybe Will Norton, Brad Mahar, Andrew Friedage, all of them I think would have something for the 30, but they've got to clear the Merchant first.
So we'll double it up, 2 by 2. as we head down for a restart, coming to, again, what'll be 7 miles to the finish. And that's if we don't run into any cautions to extend this. How about Carson Hocevar up 4th truck outside lane? This is going to be interesting. We haven't called his name towards the front of this field in quite a while. Pace car heads to pit road. Field starting to stack up. Doucette on the money, and Wilson goes with him. Back to green. Doucette gets away side by side for second. Will Norton gets down low, and they're wheel-to-wheel in turn 1 for the runner-up spot.
Still going to be side by side as they come off of turn 2. Wilson to Merchant into the wall as they're still going to be side by side. Contact as well. Norton has to check up in order to not turn out around the Seth to Merchant, and it's now going to stack up the rest of the field behind them as they come off of turn number 4. Who will survive this as they now come down to the start-finish line?
Big gap for Doucette. That opens up 6 truck lengths. Steven Wilson to second. Caution flag waves. Coming to 5.5 laps to go. James Pike, trouble in the back.
It was the 2 machine of Patrick Mallett, who I think was the first to go around, or at least one of the first to go around. 2 separate incidents, actually. One with Mallett in the 2, one with Caden Honeycutt in the 27. Contact with Justin Trombley in the 6 is where this actually does all start. Donovan Strauss is nowhere to go. The 6 gets swept up in this 2. Blake Bryan in the 12 is nowhere to go. James Milbachler in the 26 also stopped up in all this. The 25 machine of Dylan Jones runs straight to the side of the 27, as does the 8 truck of Ryan Kuhn, and everybody slides all over the place in the middle of 1 and 2, as we, I think, almost certainly are bound for a green-white checker.
Oh my goodness, what so much controversy going on here. A lot of different trucks that were involved early in the going, sort of the top 10, now involved with this late race caution, and I can see a lot of torn up trucks coming out down pit road here.
Did we mention overtime? Have we said that?
Yeah. I just said green-white checker. Goodness gracious, Jacob.
I know. I was just reiterating it like you did earlier.
Oh. Fair.
By the way, how about Derek Justice knocking on the door of a top 10 finish after being buried outside the top 15 virtually all race long? Impressive drive back there, and boy, if I didn't know any better, I would say I'd be hunting some Baskin-Robbins after this if there were any place open to get it, because I can't look at that truck, James, without wanting some ice cream.
This is very convenient because I may or may not have a little bit of Baskin-Robbins in my fridge at the moment, and I don't like
it. And you're not sharing? How dare you?
To be fair, you did feed me that one on a silver spoon, so I sort of had to take the chocolate chip and run with it, you know?
Valid point. Point.
Oh no, nothing for any of the puns.
No, sorry.
Hey.
He's not gonna give you that one tonight. I don't think.
Self-crowded, please, clearly. But hey, yeah, green-white checker, I think most likely coming, or we could end up with maybe an organic green-white checker, one of those organic GMO-free, no cage, grass-fed, whatever other bits and pieces David Childash usually chucks in at this stage, but. Green-white checker is green-white checker.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
We love green-white checker, right?
We do.
Yes.
Looking through the field right now, another driver who's almost about to break into the top 10 is Garrett Maines as well. He was as low as 2 laps down with that early pit stop strategy, being one of the last trucks to pit on that green flag pit stop sequence, but now worked his way back up through the field with all the cautions that helped him out. He's sitting in 13th.
He is, and I've got to say, after being as far back as 2 laps plus down, just to come away with a shot at a top 10 finish for Garrett Maines has to be construed as a massive victory, James.
I have to believe. You want to talk about fight back. That's fight back on fight back, and then a little bit in fight back mode, because fight back, all the time fight back, right?
All the time fight back. By the way, I believe we'd be remiss if we didn't call to note again that Garrett Maines had a little bit of big news earlier today, as he and Raja Karuth were tabbed as the drivers for the Coca-Cola Richmond Raceway Esports development team, one rung underneath their eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series squadron, James. So a lot of good there, and to see Maines and Caruth pair up with Zach Novak and Jimmy Mullis and be able to learn from those two, boy, that is going to be a potent quartet, I think, when you give them give them 6 months or so down the road from now.
That's the first group that I genuinely think could start challenging some of the stalwart iRacing teams, the iNEXs, the lockdowns, the dead zones, the slip angles. That quartet, that's a combo. And pretty cool that both of the R-Red drivers are from the Richmond area, Ruth being out of DC and Maines being Richmond native or Richmond area native. So cool to see them snap up those two as we get set for the restart with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, this is going to be good. It will be a green-white checkered finish. We're going into overtime. Oh, look at the restart. Wilson stayed with him, but he falls back down low, or falls back up high, rather. DeMerchant's down low. They're side by side for 2nd and 1.
Who will survive as they come off a turn 2? Duchette still holds on to the race lead as now a big pileup is happening towards the back of the field. Rafferty checks up big time as we can see some 3-wide action as Nelson goes to the inside. 3-wide, big wreck spinning as they come across the line. The caution comes out.
And we'll do it again.
We'll do it again.
Well,
yeah, Andrew Friedage was the first one swept up in that contact, racing side by side with Carson Hocevar in the 17. Also, the winner from Daytona, Jordi Lopez, was right there on the edge of that. They sort of bounced off each other, but it was Hocevar and Friedage who got the worst of that in the middle of 3 and 4. But we get the yellow flag before we get the white, so green-white checker number 2 will try.
Yes, we will. Taylor Burris, that was shaping up to be sporty for Ryan Doucette. Now he's going to have to do it all over again.
He's going to have to. He's like, can he just not get that white flag and end it? Let's see what he can do here. But it's a tall order. He's been doing well with these green flag restarts. Not really pulling away like he wants to, like he did in the first one. But now it's starting to work out a little bit. But the tires are starting to come into a play a little bit, even for Doucette. Even though he's on those 2 tires, it still is affecting him a little bit and a little bit more each restart we go.
So we sit now under caution, working 182 laps this time. It'll be at least 2 more laps before we go back to green. So I believe we're looking at about 186 laps total. If we can get it done in 2 overtime attempts, this will be the 2nd attempt of 3, James Pike. So we could have even 1 more shot at this.
I have a feeling we probably are going to have 1 more shot at this. We could not get to the start-finish line before the yellow flag came out, and my hunch is that we're probably not racing for all 2 laps on whatever will be the final restart of this race, whether or not it's here on this next restart attempt, or if we get a 3rd and final attempt at a green-white checker finish. We'll see how it goes. But also of note, Will mentioned that Raja Caruth came home P6 in the 6th split. Just saw that come across my news feed a little bit ago. So solid start to the season for Caruth amongst his splits. He'd probably like a little bit more, but training tools and the ability to associate with Richmond Raceway and the Richmond Raceway Esports Driver Development powered by Coca-Cola, that's a combo. That's dangerous. Those are going to be some 2 very, very fast drivers, and they get to learn from one of the stalwarts in eNASCAR competition and the defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion. Not a bad group to learn from.
No, not a bad group at all. And we see the field shaping up. They should be coming back around to the 1 to go signal when they get back to the start-finish line, which would put us, 6 laps past the scheduled distance if we can run it out. Carson Hocevar finally back inside the top 10. We mentioned Garrett Maines just outside of it, but in large part, Taylor Burris, the same names, DeMerchant, Norton, Hall, Lopez, they've been up there pretty much all night long.
They certainly have, and they have been stalwart performances for all of these drivers here tonight at Rockingham amongst our top 10. I mean, we've seen that from DeMerchant. We've seen that especially from Will Norton, who has actually got up and led several laps throughout the duration of this race. And then, of course, we've seen that with Mahar with some very interesting strategies. So let's see if they're able to do anything and work their way around either DeMerchant or Doucette and see if they can take home a checkered flag here at the Rock. So it's going to be interesting to see. We still have, of course, 1 more attempt of green-white checkered if need be, if they can't make it back to the white flag before we complete this race. So a lot could happen here tonight as they're coming down the back straightaway. The pace car is about to turn them loose, and that pace car better get out of the way very quickly because a lot is about to happen.
A lot is about to happen coming down to the finish. Second attempt at overtime. Doucette, DeMerchant, Wilson, Bahar, Norton, the front five, as we will see if we can't get 2 laps completed and bring this one to the finish at the Rock. Pace car heads to the safety of pit road one more time. Ryan Doucette trying to nail one more restart. Seth DeMerchant trying to stack him up. No dice. Steven Wilson goes right with Doucette and brings the 25 of Will Norton with him. DeMerchant sleeping at the switch as they head to turn 2.
He's got to get to the inside and will get in front of Will Norton to slot into the 3rd position, but it's going to be a tall order as several different drivers are putting the pressure. Now DeMerchant goes to the inside of Steven Nelson as they come off of turn number 4. Move him up to 2nd.
Well, they're side by side for 2nd as Doucette takes the white flag. This will be the last lap, and side by side in his mirror exactly what Doucette wants to see.
What kind of 2-tire strategy was this? An excellent one so far as I'm concerned. They're sideways blocking down the back stretch, but it's all Ryan Doucette through 3 and 4.
For the final time, Ryan Doucette converts 2 tires to victory lane. He'll win round number 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro top split over Seth DeMerchant 2nd, Steven Wilson 3rd, Will Norton 4th, and Jordy Lopez. I saw him go in 3 wide on the last lap down the back straightaway as the power slide for Doucette. A big, big win for him tonight, Taylor Burris.
A very big win tonight. Very big points tonight for that number 30. I mean, he is going to be very ecstatic about this. So, big points night for Ryan Doucette.
Burning it down on the front straightaway. Doucette wins at Rockingham, and we look back through the rest of the top 10. Jacob Hall, Brad Mahar, Carson Hocevar, Derek Justice, Dylan Rafferty, the top 10 with Cody Bias and Garrett Maines just outside of them. Boy, oh boy, this was a impressive strategy call turned into what was a dominant victory, James, down the stretch.
It really was just a matter of track position. Ryan took the gamble, thought the track position was going to be what you needed in order to have a shot at a good finish here. He ended up being right about it because we just got a bunch of cautions. Sometimes races play out like that. You might not necessarily have the fastest truck, and I wouldn't necessarily consider Doucette the fastest man in town, but you hit the strategy right, it plays in your favor. Makes up for a whole lack of speed. Not to say that Doucette wasn't pretty quick when he needed to be, but at the end of the day, that's all you need and all you want. And Doucette is going to come away with a victory that, after the way he dominated the start of Daytona, feels like a sort of completion of things to me. You put together the first half of Daytona that you want to have, put together the back half tonight that you want to have, and 2 solid, strong races, 2 halves of a strong race, or 2 halves of 2 strong races equals 1 strong race and a win, I guess, is the ceiling math on that, maybe?
Something like that. So with that, we'll step aside real quick. When we return, we'll give you full results and try to tie this thing into a nice, tidy little bow. This is round number 2 of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro top split coverage on Podium Esports, and we'll be back right after.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race.
Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Lowe. 4 wide at the stripe.
For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out?
Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron. Drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the second round of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro from Rockingham Speedway. Top split finishing up, and Ryan Doucette converts a two-tire strategy call to victory at the Rock. We'll take you through the full field results with Doucette on top over Seth DeMerchant. Steven Wilson from 32nd converts a strategy call in his own right into a podium finish. Will Norton in 4th. Jordy Lopez, the Daytona winner, 1st and 5th to open up the season. Jacob Hall 6th. Brad Mahar 7th. Carson Hocevar in 8th. Derek Justice 9th. And Taylor Burris, Dylan Rafferty, a nice rally back after nearly getting collected by Blake McCandless there down the stretch. Rafferty completes the top 10.
Coming home in 11th is Cody Bias, who started in 27th, so a great way to finish off the night here at Rockingham for Cody Bias. 12th goes to Garrett Maines as well, another good run for him as well, with Derek Bordeaux coming home in 13th. 14th goes to Braden Boulos, with Blake McCandless, after a tough end of the race, comes home in the 15th position. Patrick Malay will come home in 16th position, with Marcus Ruckman in 17th. Drew Freenarge is coming home in the 18th position, with Jarrett Libriere in 19th. Donovan Strauss rounds out your top 20.
James Milbachler was 21st this evening. 22nd went to Spencer E. Burns. Blake Bryant came home in 23rd. And 24th, last truck on the lead lap, was Dylan Jones. Ryan Kuhn was the only truck one lap down tonight. He finished 25th. 10 laps down was Caden Honeycutt in 26th. Then Justin Trombley, Eddie Kerner, and Daniel Roper. And then Casey Tucker rounded out the top 30, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd tonight in the top split of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro with Brandon McKissick, Brian Blackford, and Blake Neer in the 32. And at the end of it all, Jacob Seelman, Ryan Doucette, P1. Finally getting a little bit of footing and starting to dig his tires into a run to try and vault himself into the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series later on this year.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing when you consider that Doucette was not even close to the front page of the point sheet coming into tonight. He needed a good run and is going to come away with a lot of good points here. But for somebody like a Seth DeMerchant, who was 7th in points coming in, this is the kind of night you need, James, to basically start to stake your claim onto one of those top 20 spots to transfer yourself into the Pro Series.
Yeah, you got to be good in top split. You got to be quick in top split. You got to be up there in top split. And to that end, I think Jordy Lopez did a really nice job of following up this race and putting together a top 5 finish after a really, really solid run at Daytona, where he got the victory right at the end, and Malik Ray became the world's greatest hype man per iRacing. So you look at Lopez, that's the kind of consistency you need if you want to make sure you're in pro. You finish top 5 every week in top split. We'll see you in the Pro Series almost certainly towards the end of the year.
All right, takeaways from this one, Taylor Burris. I think we saw a couple names up there that we expected. I don't think either of us would have expected Doucette to win this race going into it, especially not from 17th. But I think the other takeaway I have from this is we had multiple names that I fully expected to be in contention tonight, and one driver who was nothing short of dominant, who got far from what they deserved.
Exactly, and we saw that here tonight as multiple different drivers struggled with this track, as well as some that we did not expect. I mean, we saw some unfortunate things happen to several different drivers, such as Roper, who was absolutely dominating this race, but then got caught up in a closing lap incident where it cost him a shot at victory. We'll have to see what they can do at the next round at the Homestead Miami Speedway, though, in a couple of weeks' time, as you know, that track is just as difficult to master as well, as we've seen time and time again in multiple different disciplines.
And I look at two sides of this coin. I look at a Daniel Roper who dominated this race and was crashed out before the finish, and I look at drivers like our winner tonight, Ryan Doucette and Steven Wilson, and think to myself, you know, for those guys, could this be the spark to take them down further the road to pro and give them a shot at being top 20? We've still got 12 more races to figure it out, and we will be here, Podium Esports, every other Tuesday night to bring them to you, as right now we're going to get ready to tie everything off for tonight's second round of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro. We'll be back in 2 weeks at 9 p.m. Eastern to bring it all to you. But right now, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore, Cisco Scaramuza at Podium Esports, for our producer tonight, Ryan Bauer, and for my partners in the booth, James Pike and Taylor Burris, I'm Jacob Seelman, saying thank you so much for tuning into tonight's broadcast. Congratulations to Ryan Doucette on picking up the win in round number 2 of the top split of Road to Pro. We'll see you in 2 weeks to do it all over again. From Rockingham Speedway, keep it off the wall till we meet again.